Hello, loved ones. Okay, so I'm currently editing a new podcast episode, which is pretty much always the case. I'm always editing a one in the middle of that. But anyway, but I'm also kind of in the works of making the next one. Okay, and these little videos that I do, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but hey, whatever, right? At least for nothing, for what it's worth, at least it's not AI generated. At least I haven't asked AI chatbot to write me a script. Oh, and then get one of the like 4 or 5 different voices that you hear on these videos. Actually read it. So therefore, I'm not doing anything. I just have the AI write the script and then read the damn thing, and then I upload it to YouTube, and there you go. Yeah, I'm sure you've noticed by now. There's probably about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 voices that do all of these video. Most of these videos that you hear, it's pretty much the same voice, right? And it's getting annoying. It's getting very annoying, actually, listening to certain channels. I mean, I've started to unsubscribe to some channels just because I'm like, it's all AI generated. I need to hear something from a human being, from an actual person with who's putting thought into these things. So anyway, but that's just me. I'm not saying that there's no good content out there that's being read by uh, whatever, whatever. It's just getting a little out of hand. Is all. So what I mean is, at least when you watch me, I'm not AI generated, and I'm not even having a AI chat bot, whatever, write my scripts for me. And you're probably thinking, hey, Matt, you probably should. You probably should there, dude, because this, whatever. So, anyway, I'm moving on. Um, but what I am doing with the YouTube channel is just kind of my little one-off thoughts and things like that, which I know that I also do Substack for that too. I mean, like that's more of my stuff if I have a little single topic that I'm not really talking about, or if it's something I wanted to expand on that I didn't really do a whole lot on a podcast, whatever. But I do talk a lot on the podcast about 3D to 4D. We hear a whole lot about 4 dimensional, 5 dimensional. We're kind of skipping from 3D to 5D. And it's like, well, whatever happened to 4D? 4D is time. And when we are pretty much outside of time, right? And then a lot of people don't understand how that works. I mean, really, we're in a 3 dimensional realm currently, so it's hard for us to understand it until we kind of think with our higher self, because our higher self, your real self, is outside of this construct, is jacked into it via your nervous system to have an experience in this 3 dimensional realm. Anyway, that's getting off subject. Anywho, so it's like, well, what's the difference between 3D and 4D? The best way I know to describe it, well, I mean, there's a few ways, but one way I know to describe it is if you have a film strip, and I believe it's 7 frames per second is like a film. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I remember hearing. So if you have a 10-second film strip, then that would be 70 frames, and it rolls at a certain speed, and you watch it, and it's very fluid, and you see a movie or some kind of film. So every frame is a picture. So, and then to watch the 10 seconds, you must roll it and watch all 70 frames, one after the other, in a very linear way. Well, if you were to take that film strip and cut each frame out separately, and then stack all those frames on top of each other, and then look at each one of them. Just kind of look down the middle and look down each one of them, and where you can see every one of them at once. You're able to look at each frame at once. Now you can see them all at one time, and also you can, stop and zero in on that one. But you can look at them all at once. That's fourth dimension. That's how fourth dimensional thinking or time would work. Another way that I talk about on the podcast a lot is 30,000 foot view. And a lot of times I refer to the 30,000 foot view as your higher self, which is outside of the construct or the simulation or whatever you want to call it, this reality. We are jacked into these avatars so that we can have an experience. And I know the thinking behind it, because I had the same thought myself before, is that, well, if it's like a video game, well, anytime I play a video game and I see the avatar on the screen, I know that I'm playing that avatar on the screen. Yeah, but the avatar does not know that. And because if the avatar did, then it wouldn't be much of an experience, would it? So these avatars this brain, that's not where our thinking is. That's simply a processor. It processes everything that all the sensory things, such as what we see and what we hear, what we touch, all that good stuff. And it also is when we have a thought, such as I'm having a thought right now, we put it from outside into the brain and then out the mouth. And so these thoughts that you're hearing, that's not coming from this brain. This brain is simply interpreting, or I guess processing the thought and putting it out into words that are coming out of my mouth so that you can hear it. That's what the brain does. So, no, the avatar is not necessarily going to know that it's being controlled by you, the real you, outside of this. And besides, even if that were the case, that wouldn't be much of an experience. If we knew that, well, this isn't really, and we are having this realization, that's why we're probably not going to be around. That's why this may be our last time in this go around here, because we're realizing that this isn't really real. I exist outside of this. And this is simply here just for me a means to have an experience. Talks about it a lot right here in the Kybalion. How the universe is not even really real. It's a construct inside the mind of the all, or the creator, God, whatever you want to call it. But while we are in it, we are subject to natural law. So even though we have come to a realization that, well, none of this is real, well, fine, that may be true. But what is also true is you are operating in it currently. So therefore, the laws that apply here, natural law, apply. You must abide. It applies to you. Like, just because you realize this is not where you really are, doesn't mean that gravity doesn't apply to you. It still does. So don't go jumping off of anything. Okay? Anywho, so like the 30,000 foot view, I refer to it a lot on the podcast in a way that, so that it's like, look at the big picture, right? Because the further you zoom out from something, the further out you can see. For example, if you're standing on a beach at sea level, you can see out so many miles. But if you go up 20 stories in a building that's beachfront and you look, you can see out so much further. Why? Because you're that much further over the horizon. Right? I think they say you can see, for every inch, you can see 6 miles or something like that. For every, whatever. Point is, the higher up you are, the further you can see. The more you can see. Just like in an airplane. When you're in an airplane, you can see where one person is standing on the ground, they can maybe see, 50 feet? Depending upon what's around them, of course. But if you're in an airplane flying over top of that person, you can see for miles. So if there were a bus careening toward that person at 100 miles an hour, and for whatever reason they couldn't see it, well, you could. It's like that thing's a mile away, but it's going 100 miles an hour, so it's about to be to you here directly. Right? It's going to be running your ass over pretty quick. So you need to move. And that's what your intuition is your higher self, right? Anyway, getting off the subject with that. We'll go into that later. But so the fourth dimensional thinking also can be looked at with the 30,000 foot view, because you can see if you were to take that same film strip and hold out those 10 seconds, like right now I have to frame. But if I were to get 30,000 feet above it, I could see the entire strip at once. But then again, I may be only able to focus on one frame at a time, unless I have them stacked together where I see every one of them at one time. So anyway, there's that. I hope that helps with some things, put some, shed some light on some of the things that I talk about with the whole that's a very third dimensional way of looking at things. Anyway, loved ones, please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm not soliciting people for anything. I just, please like, subscribe. Rating the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts would be fantastic. I really appreciate that. And on Substack, I do a lot of my articles and stuff I put on there. That is just Matt Stevens. YouTube, obviously, is Matt Stevens MSA for My Sober Addiction. And the podcast is My Sober Addiction. So there you go, loved ones. I will be back directly